Hello everyone and welcome to one of the first classes in our series, making sure that as your local theatre we're still getting arts content out to you. So today we're talking about directing, and in that very broad sphere we're looking at how to get started on a project. Inspiration does not always come easily, and so it's really useful, especially when you're first starting out, to have a few handy tips to help get the brain working. I would bear in mind that these are a few strategies that work for me. Some of them may not work for you, and if anyone out there has some strategies of their own that they want to share, then please do add them onto the comments of this video. Whilst GCSEs are still up in the air at the moment, I do recommend that you have a watch, as almost all of these principles can be assigned to a smaller chunk of play that you might be asked to work on or write about. If after the video you have any questions, do feel free to drop them down in the comments below and I'll reply to them as quickly as I can. So, where to begin? Well, first of all, we're starting with an obvious one. Read the script. More than once, at least 3 times, maybe more. It seems like a very, very basic principle, but I think it's really helpful to read a script more than once with a different focus each time. So the first time you read your script, make sure to enjoy it. See how it makes you feel. What are the bits that stood out to you? Why did you enjoy it? Did you even enjoy it? It's really important to ask yourself why something made you respond and engage with it the way you did. Now, the second time reading it through, it's really important to ask what the big questions that the script are asking are. And if you're doing something that's less obviously thematic, it's still really important to dig into this and find those questions. Even commercial musicals often have a great deal to say about various ideas or themes or interrogating kind of philosophical nonsense. Knowing your themes can help a great deal when it comes to thinking about how you may want to lay out your stage and inform some of your blocking choices. A great example of this is in the Garrick's recent production of Jesus Christ Superstar. I felt there was a really strong theme of the dangers of mob mentality and the fickleness that it can present, which then led to this decision to have everyone in the ensemble play all of the various group roles, allowing the audience to physically see a mob swing back and forth in judgment and intensity. So, third time's the charm, and this time it's important to think about what the arcs in the script are. I suppose thinking about how are characters different at the end of the show from how they were at the start. So, and a good example of this might be that whilst there's an overarching plot in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, quite a bit of the meat of the story comes from Peter learning responsibility and growing into a leader, Susan gaining courage to support the people in a community and growing into someone who wants to help as opposed to avoid situations, Edmund learning consequences and growing to have great judgment, having learned some very hard lessons, and Lucy learning independence and that she as herself can make a difference to other people. Now, whether or not you disagree with that analysis of each character's arc, it is incredibly useful to have these arcs available to you, as it can help to inform your blocking and the kind of guidance you might be able to offer your actors. If we feel that Peter's journey within the show is learning responsibility, growing into a leader, then we need to make sure that the character choices our actor are making show that at the start of the show, Peter is uncomfortable with the responsibility of leadership. If he starts the show already looking and behaving as a heroic and great leader, there's no way for the audience to see his character's progression, and the show can immediately start to feel quite flat. Right, so you've read the script a few times, quite a few times. Secondly, it's really important to take some time to try and imagine the play. I know for me, I usually end up with a particular visual moment or scene in my head, and whilst it will inevitably change and adapt as the show grows, I often will find myself expanding outwards from this sort of visual. Your imagination does not often start at the beginning of a show, unhelpfully, so it's important to allow yourself to imagine the moments that jump out at you, and then consider why you've imagined them that way. You'll often find that the moments that leap out at you are key moments or shifts in the show, even if not obviously so at first, and it can be really helpful to have this in your mind and help you build your aesthetic. Thirdly, if your show is one with a pre-existing pedigree or it's based upon a piece of art that people know well, it's really important to do your research on what prevailing attitudes are towards it. To use The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe as an example again, one of the most helpful things I found at the start of the process was to type into Google, "I loved The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe because," and see what results came up. And this was really useful in identifying why other people connected with the story and what stuck with them, which when you're producing work for a large audience is instrumental to know. If the script is new writing, then I would heavily recommend having someone whose opinion you trust, but often differs or disagrees with you, so it differs in perspective from you, and ask them to have a look at it. You don't really want to see what someone who shares all the same opinions as you or lives a very similar life to you thinks of the script, because probably what all they're going to do is confirm your ideas. And whilst that's lovely in the short term, it could trip you up in the long term. And finally, the last, shortest, and probably the most important point of all is think about what specifically excites you about working on this script. What are the moments, what is it about the story that excites you about working on it? And this is partially because, looking more to, I suppose, the practical setting, as a director, you're responsible for the overarching vision of the project. And your excitement is the kindling for everyone you work with's own passion about the project. So find what about the script excites you, what you look forward to seeing made real later in the rehearsal process, and it should steer you well. Fantastic. Thank you very much for tuning in for one of our first masterclasses. If you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to comment on the video, as this is only a few minutes of discussing some very basic ideas, and I will do my best to get back to you with good answers. Also, if you have any specific masterclass topics that you would like us to try and cover, please do not hesitate to shout about it down below, and we will do our best to cover it. As always, stay safe, stay positive, and we will see you soon.